Okay, thank you everyone to join me today. My name is Marc Caparrós, not Marc Chicón. That was a mistake. Sorry. And I'm the head of the customer experience team at CaixaBank Digital Business. I'm happy to be here today because 3 years back, when I started this adventure as a head of the UX team, I would have loved that someone would have explained to me how to set up a customer experience practice that would add value to a bank. Well, that didn't happen at all. So I thought it would make sense today to come here and to share with you my experience. So let's go. First of all, I would like to point out how important is customer experience for CaixaBank. It's actually one of our top priorities in our present strategic plan. It's not enough with the business viability, not the technical feasibility. We need our products and services to be easy to understand, to be simple, and above all, we need our products and services to solve the problems of our customers. And this is our vision. In order to deliver relevant experiences that contribute to the business, we need to understand them deeply. Well, this is theory, and as you may agree, theory is not practice. Actually, it took us 3 years for us to reach that vision. It was not that easy. And during the time, we have evolved our model around these 3 key aspects: research, design, and implementation. Research with the users, so we get to understand their problems. Design the perfect solutions that give an answer to that problem. And implement in terms of visual and interaction. What we have at the very beginning was what I call a usability practice. It is important to say that when CaixaBank started to develop some years ago our digital ecosystem, we rapidly understood that it was important not to lose contact with the customer, of course. But this explains why in 2004 we already had our small team of usability experts and our small usability lab where we were performing qualitative testing. And this team also managed to implement the first style guide that in that moment was just a PDF file that we could share between us. With that model, we were certainly improving our solutions, the solutions that were given by the business team, but we were really far from the vision that I have said before. We were not focusing on the problem. At this time, for instance, we could discover during our usability testing some design problems in the products or the services that were going live, but maybe they were going live in 2 weeks' time, so it was just too late to be solved. Even worse, we didn't have the tools to validate the findings that we were encountering during these usability tests. That is why we evolved our model to what I call a customer experience practice. What we did on the very first time was to add quantitative testing, and we developed our own metrics. This way, we had the tools we needed to validate the findings that we were encountering during our research. We also start sharing our knowledge within the whole company. We use this term, lab learnings, in which we try to increase the average level of knowledge on customer experience and sensitiveness within the whole company. It's just about sharing all the knowledge that we acquire during our research activities, which are a lot, actually. We start hiring also customer experience experts that allow us to start working hand in hand with the business teams in order to develop our solutions from scratch. And not much improvement at this time on the implementation side. We just went to an HTML file instead of the PDF that we had before. But however, with all that stuff, we certainly increased the added value to the business, which was we were looking for. But this was not enough. We were still not focusing on a problem. We were focusing on a given fact, 1 or 2 possible solutions, maybe. So we tried to evolve the model to what I like to call the design area. Why is that? Well, on the one hand, As you may notice by this time, I'm convinced that focusing on the problem, it's really important to be innovative and to build strategic differentiation. And on the other hand, I think that design, for me, it's a powerful mindset that you need when you cope with an endless possible amount of solutions. And this is actually what happens when you start focusing on the problem instead of focusing on one or two possible solutions. What we did at this time was to hire new design experts. With this bigger team, we developed our own design thinking practice, which has been used with quite success since then. And this time, yes, on the implementation side, we developed a quite sophisticated tool that we call the design system of CaixaBank in order to keep consistency with the whole CaixaBank ecosystem, which, as you may imagine, during these years has been growing quite fast. So now, yes, we have finally reached our vision. Of course, I don't want to say with that we are at the end of our journey. I'm just saying that we are starting to feel comfortable with the value that we are adding to the business in terms of customer experience. So this is where we are now. We have a customer experience lab where we perform qualitative testing in order to build our hypothesis. We validate them using quantitative testing, using our own customer experience metrics. We share our knowledge through our lab learning sessions. We have our customer experience and design team that using design thinking methodologies work hand in hand with the business teams to develop our products, trying to give an answer, the perfect answer to the problems that we encounter during our research. And we implement it using our design system tool, which allows us to keep consistency. I brought to you some examples on that. First of all, there's a short video I would like to share with you so you can watch by yourselves what we do, or how it looks like. Jezabel, please.
What mechanisms can we use to learn about people's needs? How can we successfully design tools that are really well adapted to their lives? The answer is in the La Caixa User Experience Lab. This is where we can study the way clients use CaixaBank's electronic channels. Our methodologies adapt to any project we wish to study to better define user experience at any time. Essentially, we can create the test we need. From the workshop and design thinking exercises at the beginning of the project, for creating and designing new products and services, to the user tests on prototypes, for validating them and checking their efficiency, effectiveness and usability, and comprehension before the real launch. The lab has cameras, microphones, eye-tracking equipment and specific software for performing and recording tasks. The purpose of these devices is to register all the test details. This way, the team involved in the project can observe and study interaction with real users through certain channels and gauge their experience of them from both a quantitative and qualitative slant. The information obtained allows us to put people at the center of our projects. That is how we design our products and services, adapted to the lives and needs of our clients.
Well, oops, sorry. I also talked before about our metrics. We have two, actually, behavior and perception. These are based on the international standard organization definition of customer experience, which says that is the combination of behaviors and perceptions that a customer gets when he interacts with your product or service. By behavior, we measure things like time to complete or success rate, or the satisfaction of the customer when interacting with the product. And by perception, we focus more on the feelings of the customer, and we ask the typical NPS question if he would recommend that product to a friend, or how he felt with the design we just showed him, or maybe if he felt informed during the process. Here what you can see are two real examples. This is when we redesigned My Car section on the website, and this is the launch of our new app. And in those two cases, what is interesting is that with this method, we are able to scientifically demonstrate with the statistical significance that we are improving our customer experience in terms of these two metrics, which I think is really interesting and helps the business team to make the correct decision. I also talked before about our lab learning sessions. Those are the sessions that we try to share the knowledge through all the company in order to, with the only objective to increase the overall sensitiveness on the customer experience matters, which is really important. Regarding our design, design practice, I brought to you a quite recent example that actually led CaixaBank to become the very first bank to use biometric technology in order to identify its customers on ATM machines. This actually came from a design thinking process that we did with the ATM business team, which on the research phase, we identified safety as the most important item for our customers when they were going to interact with an ATM. So a design challenge was started in order to increase safety, and this is when biometric technology came up as a viable source of not just improving safety, but also the perception of safety for our customers, which was, of course, really interesting. So we started to design it using our design system, of course, and after some hard testing, more than 1,000 users actually, and of course after hard work from our technical side, the project went live, I think, 2 months ago with quite success, and we have now implemented it in, I think, 40 ATMs around Barcelona. And finally, regarding our design system, I would like to talk a little bit further on that. As I said, is the tool that we use in order to keep consistency. We define it like the set of tools and processes that allows us to do that. On the one side, what we have is the style guide repository, where you can find all the different style guides that we are using on, for instance, ATMs, web, mobile, and so on. And if you go to one of these style guides, what you will find is always with the same structure, the key principles, and every single component that this style guide contains, with detailed information, use cases, screenshots, and so on. On the other side, we have the prototyping tool here, where you can find is exactly the same components that you can find on the style guide repository, but this time you can use it to build an interactive prototype quite easily and quickly. This is really interesting because it is the way of communicating within the company, because you can share this prototype and talk around it instead of using a PowerPoint presentation like this one, for instance. You can also use it for testing purposes, of course, on our customer experience lab. And finally, it is really interesting that we can, with the tool that we are using, translate it automatically into technical requirements, so it can go live quite fast to the market. So, thank you. That was all for my part. I will.
Time for some questions. Right, we've got a microphone at the back. Yes, we have one coming forward.
Hello. Nice presentation. A couple of questions. What is the interaction that you have with the brand strategy? Mm-hmm. And the other is, are you the house of the designers, or the designers are embedded in the different business units, or you have a centralized approach? How is that
Okay,
evolution as well? If you
First one, we are not the same team with the brand team, but we are pretty coordinated. Actually, our design system is a kind of translation of how brand design and the brand principles go to the digital side. Yeah. And the second one was, sorry, if we are...
your team of designers are centralized, or they are
Yeah.
embedded on the business units, or?
What do you mean by designers? Because in terms of UI, if you talk in terms of UI, it's not centralized. Every business team has the ability to count on the suppliers that he decided. But everyone is supposed to use the design system, so we want to keep consistency. That actually, because it is not centralized, is because we need this kind of sophisticated tools in order to go ahead. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you for the presentation as well. I wanted to ask, you mentioned that you're using NPS as one of the metrics to measure the effectiveness of your experience. My question is, especially in digital, what else? What other metrics are you using, especially to understand, because not all customers respond to surveys, and especially digital customers respond even less to surveys. So, there's a lot of customers out there. And how do you know that the experience that you're delivering is really a great experience?
Yeah. Well, the quality department of CaixaBank is using NPS as the most important metric in order to measure customer experience. What I explained before about behavior and perception, those are the metrics that we are using on the lab side, so before launching something on the market. And as I said, we are using different kinds of metrics. And afterwards, quality staff, the quality department, is doing telephone interviews and so on in order to check everything out. Yeah.
Anybody else out there? You talked about your customer experience experts you recruited and the design experts.
Yeah.
What industries have they come from? Have you chosen certain industries where that skill was readily available, or have you had to develop it internally?
We mostly had to develop internally because there's not it is not an expertise very well defined, I would say now, and it's difficult to find this.
What's the profile of the customer experience expert? Somebody's asking.
Yeah, it's they actually come from normally from design practices, but it depends because it's a matter of sensitiveness and the way you understand the business, I think. I don't know, myself, I studied business, and it has nothing to do, maybe someone would say, about customer experience, but actually it has a lot.
Mm. Anybody else out there with a question? Yep, another one at the front. You got one at the back as well. Right, let's go for the front first, and then we'll...
CaixaBank has other design teams amongst the digital design, like service designers or something like that?
Well, we actually have recently built, it's an interesting question, a community of practice. And we are gathering around 50 people that are working on design stuff around CaixaBank. Yeah. I would say that regarding customer experience, as we are the guys that are focused on the digital side, we are the ones that are grown and develop this practice more deeply, I think.
Right, one down the back.
Yeah.
Dazzled by the lights.
Hi, my name is Joep. I'm a design thinking expert. Quick question for you. First of all, congratulations on what you've put together. Looks very nice.
Thank you.
You focused on the lab, but do you also go outside and do you go into the world and actually go to where your customers are?
Yeah, of course. Sometimes the lab is just a way of talking. Sometimes the test that we are performing, actually right now, we are on different branches testing new products that we want to make sure that they work with within the branch. And of course, we are going to where our customers are. Also, because one thing that it's been said that not everyone is digital. And even though I'm really fan of quantitative testing because of the scientific approach that it allows to me, there's a lot of people who is not digitalized still that are customers of the bank, and we need to listen to them also, of course.
We've got one or two questions up here. The one at the bottom is the style guide used also when it comes to the employee experience perspective?
Not the style guide that we're using right now for the customer side of the equation, but it's an interesting question because we are really working on that right now. And we are trying to merge these two worlds because we want employees to be the first ones to help and to know how everything works from the customer perspective. So we want that their systems work exactly the same than the customer ones. This is actually a great challenge that we have right now.
What about the one up at the top here? Every user has different goals and shows different behavior on different channels. The question is about how you're moving towards a personalized experience.
Well, we are trying to do it with technology, with segmentation, and with a lot of effort, of course.
And how many people in the user department, user experience?
It's around 15 people right now.
Okay. Right, we got any other questions out there? Okay, well, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.